more than two problems, but I'm going to try to simplify it and say we generally have two problems when it comes to discipline in schools. Teachers are not safe because kids who should be having consequences are not getting consequences. That's problem number one that must be fixed. Our teachers 100% deserve and should expect to be safe, period. Number two, we have children that are going to DAEP, which is Discipline Alternative Education Placement, all across the state that do not deserve to be there, and their due process rights have been stolen from them and their parents. And so what you're going to hear now are stories related to that. And so we actually have some that are physically here today, and we also have some pre-recorded testimony, because this, in my opinion, I mean, we have uncovered and shown so many things today. This is something that, again, you're going to put in the pile of no freaking way. I just don't even know what else to say about all the stuff we're hearing today. It should not be happening, and not on our watch, not anymore, right? And so right now I have a woman who's driven here from Houston to tell you about what happened to her child, Danielle Foyer. Would you please come forward?
I'm Danielle Foyer, and thank you for inviting me to speak about my son Luke Foyer, who was wrongly sentenced to DAP in the Waller, Iowa School District on April 4th, 2022. Luke was the varsity baseball catcher his junior and senior year at Waller High School. On April 4th, Luke was assaulted by a mob of Waller football players simply because he was a baseball player. Prior to the assault, several baseball players were stalked by the football players throughout the day. They informed AP Robert Kinney 3 times that day that something was going to happen between the two groups. After that, on the way to practice, the boys told the baseball coach that something was going to happen. They went back and told AP Kinney for a 4th time that something was going to happen. After practice that day, Principal Stephanie Fletcher called to inform me that Luke had been assaulted. There's a little side note here. I have worked with Principal Fletcher for 14 years. She knows my son very well. Principal Fletcher stated if she had known anything about this, she would have done something. You know me, Danielle. I would have prevented it. Well, prior to the assault, 2 members of Fletcher's staff had been informed 4 times that something was going to happen that day. The football coach was informed that day. His response was, "I'll take care of it tomorrow." So, the impending clash 4 times. Later that week, Fletcher informed us that Luke and one of the other kids that had assaulted him would be placed in DAP. So he had been suspended for 3 days to do an investigation, which I was okay with because he was definitely, could have been in danger if he had been at school. But there was a mob of 15 kids that chased him through the parking lot, and the reason I know that is I was teaching and someone sent me the video. I had to leave the classroom and go, and I was just physically sick. My son is 5'7", 5'8". He's adopted, he's Puerto Rican. He ran from this mob of group of 15 that were chasing him. It was all on video. They attack him, 5 of them beat him. He's crawling on the ground, just trying to get away from them. Some of the other baseball members finally come and help. The coach shows up 5 minutes after all of this happened. He knew what was going on. He knew what was going on. So when she said he was going to be placed in DAP that day, I said, there's no way that Luke will ever step foot in DAP. Because I had seen the video of what had happened. That someone had video, not the film the school had video. So we asked to see the video prior to choosing our course of action. We were denied access, stating there were other kids in the video. At this point, my husband and Luke had a meeting with Superintendent Kevin Moran. Mr. Moran asked Luke to leave the room. At that point, Mr. Moran looked at my husband and said word for word, Luke got his licks in. My husband and I then spoke to Assistant Principal Benny Mays, who had been my son's football coach when he was 6 and 7, and spoke to Principal Fletcher. They both gave us very different accounts of what was on the video. At this point, we retained legal counsel in order to see the video for ourselves, because I wanted to see exactly what had happened. During the time of trying to see the video, the SRO, who arrived at the scene after the assault, called Luke several times to intimidate him. I know this because my neighbor was there with my son during the 3 days of suspension. He informed Luke, because we tried to press charges on all of these. We were never allowed to press charges. The SRO called my son and said, if you press charges, we clearly see you spitting on the video. We clearly see you hitting someone on the video. And my son is like, and I asked him, I said, did you do that? He said, I did not do any of that. The SRO told Luke if we were to press charges that he would probably be the one that would go to jail. That's what he told my 18-year-old son. And the only reason he could talk to him is because he had just turned 18. He was a senior. Once we were able to view the video of the assault, we were not only nauseated, but enraged by the absurd interpretation of the events by Kevin Moran and his subordinates. Under no circumstances would we allow Luke to be remanded to DAP. When we saw the video, I had all three of them in the room, and I said, clearly show me where my son spits on someone. Show me. We watched the video again, and I said, Stephanie, which is Miss Fletcher, because I've known her forever, I said, now show me where my son walked out in the parking lot and stalked up behind this group of kids that attacked him. Show me. We watched the video again. It never happened. None of it ever happened. But they used that to put him in DAP with only one of the guys. The very first guy that assaulted Luke and hit him. And then the other 5 jumped on him. So immediately we hired an attorney, and Attorney George Shake noted that the protocol for DAP assignment had been violated, if not completely ignored. Waller ISD arbitrator Kelly Barron, who I've known forever, I go to meetings with her all the time. She was our arbitrator for our second grievance. We went through the first grievance. How do you go through a grievance when the person from Waller ISD is your arbitrator? They're not going to side with you. They're never going to side with you. Plus, the first grievance takes a month. My son was a senior. April 4th was his last day in school. I told them, I said, he will finish his year, but he did it all online in about 4 days. So he was done. But he missed everything. He missed being a varsity catcher. He missed probably playing baseball in college because of this treatment. So the arbitration week process consumed 7 weeks of Luke's closing days of senior year, but most importantly, it deprived him of his final days as a varsity catcher. Likewise, it forced him to complete his senior year online, deprived him of prom, numerous other senior milestones. It's noteworthy that Luke Foyer had never been sanctioned or disciplined in 12 years of Waller ISD. Never been in a fight, never been in trouble. Stephanie Fletcher would call my son to help out with some of the resource kids when he was in junior high. It would be an overstatement to suggest that he was on suicide watch for several weeks. I walked upstairs and he had a noose around his neck. Okay? Throughout our legal counsel, Waller ISD was forced to withdraw the DAP. The recommendations and that they restored Luke's status as a student in full compliance with school doctrine. This occurred after scheduled classes had ended and the baseball season was over. So what are the major problems inherent in the Texas school disciplinary system and how do we fix them? For starters, school districts operate with impunity regarding their disciplinary protocol. They lack transparency and appear to have little or no oversight. They have none. Furthermore, the arbitration process is proceeded over by an employee of the district Our experience and the experience of other in these disciplinary arbitrations clearly demonstrates disregard for facts and obvious bias in the face of the school district. A third party without affiliation to either side should oversee those hearings and render the outcome based on facts. Additionally, as in Luke Foyer's case, a large number of football players sought out and attacked him simply because he was the available one. In the end, a single combatant from either side was reprimanded without the facts. The practice is well documented and may suggest that mass disciplinary actions place too many students in DAP, therefore depriving the district of money compensation for their attendance. Right now, we have an elementary school that is standing vacant, and we just had a bond passed. That is going to be the new DAEP for Waller. Everyone will be placed in DAEP in Waller. I am actually long-term subbing there right now. It's my fourth one. I'm at the junior high. There are 79 kids in DAP right now. Yes. And the ones that are in there, a lot of them that are in there are not bad kids. Maybe they messed up one time, but my students that are constant problems in my classrooms, they aren't in DAP because they're lower learners. They don't want them to be in DAP. But I have two girls that are in honors classes that did one stupid thing. This will be on their record. They're in DAP for 30 days. There is no curriculum for them in DAP. None. Absolutely none. On a more personal note, never would I have thought I would be here speaking about my son in DAP. I'm currently employed as a long-term sub at Waller Junior High. I've noticed many of the students being placed in DAP for minor infractions. Many are honor students, would never have disciplinary problems. However, the students who have many disciplinary problems and perform lower academically don't receive the same punishment. Last week, there was a kid vaping in my class. Okay, it was a football player, 8th grade. I saw the vape, turquoise, I asked for it. He put it in his pants. It took the AP 20 minutes to come down there to pull him out of the class. They didn't find it, so I assumed he probably passed it to the kid across from him, so they searched him too. They didn't find it. Well, that student came up to me 2 hours later and said, "Told you they wouldn't find it." So the kid that has the vape is back in the hallways an hour later. And I'm like, I go up to the AP and I said, "Why is Lester back in the hallways?" "Well, Miss Foyer, we didn't find it." And I said, "So that tells me that you think I'm lying, that I'm the liar because I'm the teacher." No, ma'am, no, Miss Foyer. I said, "Well, let me tell you how it's going to go. Tomorrow morning, either Lester's going to be in class or I'm going to be in class. Because we won't be here together at all." 2 hours later, he was at least suspended for 2 days. I had teachers come up to me and ask, "How did you make that happen?" I said, "Because I'm not afraid of being fired, because I'm just a long-term sub. And I do this because I like helping. I like being there. I like making a difference." Teachers don't get the support they need at all. I see it, and it's gotten worse in 14 years. Y'all get no support at all. Absolutely none. In the end, most families don't have the resources to hire legal counsel like we did to protect their students from unjust district disciplinary actions. I hope this sheds some light on the injustices many families in Texas suffer at the hands of their school